Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I'm Jason. As always, my co-host Zack Partridge in the house. What up, dog?
What up, Holmes?
I'm just excited to be recording, man. I hate waiting until Tuesday, man. Mondays was like cool, it's okay.
We wanted to record like Saturday night, Sundays sometimes. We
I
gotta wait
know,
till
we're-
Monday. Now it's Tuesday.
Specific fight nights. We're like, dude, we gotta record right now. Hey, you wanted to talk about some things before we got started.
Well, yeah, one. Well, I'll start with. So everybody has like their one fight that made them fall in love with MMA.
Yeah.
I think mine was Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald.
Is that what he's known for? That fight? Is he kind of known for just that fight?
I mean, dude, Rory was great.
Was he? Was he great?
You don't think he was?
I don't know if I would consider him great. I think that fight was great.
Before that fight.
I mean,
Wow.
who's he beat?
Before that fight, who's he beat?
He beat Woodley.
Yeah, Nate Diaz, right? Mike Pyle, BJ Penn, Jake Ellenberger, lost to Robbie Lawler, split decision.
That was the fight, right?
Damian Maya, Tyron Woodley. And then he lost to Robbie again in the 5th round.
That was the war, right?
The one. He was never really the same after that. Beat Douglas Lima.
All right. You're right. I don't know if I'd put him up there as great. I don't know, dude. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough for me. You're going to put him at great? What's up, Mason?
I think
you're going to say he's great. You're going to say great?
He was at one point. Like,
I mean, I'd like the win against Penn because that was Penn was he was still riding a little high back then. That was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Ellenberger's a good win. Maya, Woodley. Yeah, I mean, he does got to win against Lima, but then Lima beat him. I don't know. I can't put him at great. I'm not going to put him at great. I'll put him at good. That's where I'm at. I'm at good. Do you think it was the right move for him to step down?
Yeah, he's had a great career. It's been a long time. Yeah, it's been this. He's never been the same since that fight, and like you only have so many wars, and you only have so many wars in you.
Yeah.
And he had some great ones. When you're getting knocked out in PFL, he was one of those ones that went over to PFL that thought I think he kind of thought it would be like the easy million.
Him and Pettis.
But here's the thing. Once you start going downhill, you're still fighting young, hungry lions. And even if you're not in the UFC, it's still tough. He went over and claimed Bellator gold, right?
Yeah.
And PFL, it's just time. It's been through a lot of wars. It's all good.
What do you think about?
I think he had a great career.
What do you think about the news with Shane Burgos going over to PFL? He's probably the first fighter in his prime leaving the UFC to go to PFL. Like legit in his prime, like right now, going into his prime.
He's just getting to be a marquee guy for the UFC, right?
Yeah.
He's a top 15 featherweight. And basically he got offered a deal, went to the UFC, said, this is what PFL is offering me. Can you match it? And they said, no, good luck.
And this was the second time PFL has tried to get him. PFL tried to get him once before, and he turned it down.
Yeah.
And he didn't give the exact figures, but he said it was 6 figures that he turned down to stay with the UFC because he loved the UFC and he loved what they did for him. What's up, Mike? Thanks for tuning in, bro.
It's just business, right? It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's just business. And I think the UFC understands that, and Shane Burgos understands that, and the PFL understands that. And we're getting to the point where this abundancy of there's so many good, young, talented fighters that I think we're going to see this more and more. I think we're going to see fighters cut their teeth in other promotions and then come over as contenders like Michael Chandler has. And then I think we're going to see the other way where people come up through the ranks through the UFC, get a little star power that another promotion's willing to pay more for to bring to, like Shane Burgos. Because, I mean, for whatever you think about him, he's never been in a boring fight.
No.
Probably never going to be a UFC champion.
No.
But never been in a boring fight.
He brought up something really. Oh, go ahead.
So, I'm just saying it's been, I don't know.
He brought up a really good, interesting point. I was listening to him on the MMA Hour, Ariel Helwani show in his interview, and he talked about how the UFC gave him this platform to be able to go and do this. And he appreciated everything that the UFC does. A lot of the behind the scene things that people don't see and they don't hear about when they talk about fighter pay. He talked about,
hey, their fighters, though.
He said, fight week, they treat you like a freaking king. He said, everything, your food is taken care of. They have a physical therapist on site. They had a girl there to braid his hair to get his hair braided. Like, all these things are taken care of. They roll out the red carpet for these guys. And that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, I don't think.
I would agree, and people just say, oh, they don't like the expense that they put on a show, they shoulder to put on a show and try and take care of the fighters. A lot of that is taking care of them in a way that the best fighters in the world should be taken care of.
Yeah.
And I think some of them take for granted and maybe forget a little bit about those smaller shows, or maybe they just don't value it. But I think the UFC does what they can to genuinely try and take care of their fighters.
Yeah.
In those areas.
What I really liked about this whole situation was the UFC was like, hey man, go get your bag. Like, go get your money. They weren't trying to like hold him back. They weren't trying to, tie him down. They said, hey man, if you can go make more money, go make more money. Great. Good for you. We want you to be able to make more money and provide for your family. They're not dogging him as he's leaving over there.
Yeah. Because
he's not loyal.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they're supporting this guy's decision.
I mean, I'm sure they're frustrated. They invested. I'm sure they're frustrated, but I don't think they're taking it personal. And I think
it's business is business, and it always should be that way. And especially if you're dealing with business is business. Like, friendships aside, relationships aside, business is business. And he had to make a business decision, and he did. A very good one from what it sounds like. Yeah. He said at the end of his contract, he will be a multimillionaire.
Good for him.
Multimillionaire.
Good for him.
He didn't give specific numbers, but
good for him.
He said his
first fight was a 2-season deal.
2-season deal. He said his first fight, he will make more than he's made fighting in the UFC in one fight. It's pretty impressive. I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? It's not like he's going in there and fighting cans. Like, he said, I think the first season, if I'm not mistaken, he's staying at 145, but he might end up going up to 150 because of the weight cuts, because he has to fight so many times a year. But that 145 is that Brendan Longy guy's there. There's some killers in the 145 on PFL. And I thought his interview was great. He said, he's like, hey man, these guys are UFC caliber guys. I can't go in there thinking that I can just take these guys' heads off, because it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for him, man. Really good for him. What else? Any other news we got to talk about? UFC this weekend, baby.
It's a good card. Good fights on the card.
Dude, okay. How good of a card is it? You're looking at
solid.
Could we have done a little bit better on a co-main event? Could we have gotten a better co-main event?
Maybe.
See, I love Aldo Davishvili. I'm not sold on Costa and Rockhold as being the co-main. Augustine, you don't hop on the live, but fight week hits different Asian like fine wine. Yeah. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
I'm gonna arm day in forever.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's a good card. Obviously, I'm gonna go. But there's nothing really that's like, I bet it's gonna be a banger. I'm gonna who am I trying to fool? It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it's gonna be sick. Should we recap this weekend's fights? Pretty damn good card. We said it. We called it when we talked about it.
People were sleeping on the card, and
people were sleeping on it. It ended up being a banger. First fight of the night, we had Yusuf Salah and Damon Blackshear. Ended up in a draw. I did not see that fight. Did you watch that one?
It was. I mean, it back and forth. I guess I'm guessing the point deduction, right?
Who got the point deduction? See, I didn't see it. Who had the point deduction?
Man,
you don't.
I want to say Zalal was up and got a point deduction. I'm sure Mason will help us out. For whatever reason, I can't remember that one. Majority draw.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
So, anyways, draw. Don't see him too often. You ready for this? I think we should see more of them.
How does that work on pay? How does that work? Do they both get a win bonus?
Probably not. Half.
See that? Yeah. Josh Quinlan makes his UFC debut in style. Laying out. Laid him out. Which we thought.
I think Josh Quinlan has the touch of death. Because he didn't even have to load that. He didn't even have to load that hook or anything.
It's all the picograms, bro. Picograms.
How much do you think that makes a difference? The fact that
it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. If you're on them currently, if you're doing something, yes. But if you used to take it, it doesn't do anything now. It ain't doing anything for you now.
Right.
Tyson Nam, surprise. We both were on O'Day Osborne. O'Day's tried to get a little cute, got a little fancy. Tyson Nam sat his ass down.
Quit jumping. Quit jumping.
Yeah,
you just timed that second one. It's like, you want to keep
perfect.
threatening this flying knee? Big.
Yeah, perfect. Oh, dude, how could we forget before we go on to the next fight? Our boy Mitch Ramirez. Whew, like scary. I text you and I said, I watched that guy's fight. And I know you did. I'm like, Mitch is going to beat this kid. Like, yeah, he looked like a killer. He stalked that kid for 40 seconds and
for 40 whole seconds.
Dude, he threw that leg kick to the body, kind of folded him. And then that uppercut, I mean, it didn't even look like it. Everything he was throwing was hurting that kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you hear his post-fight speech?
No, I didn't.
Oh, dude, he went off. Oh, he went off. Oh, and Desmond, yeah, Mitch just brought up Desmond. I text you there. I'm like, dude, that was like KO of the year. That flying knee,
folded,
brutal.
Put his lights out.
Slept him. That was a fun card.
That was fun.
Anyways, all right, we'll get back to the UFC. Gabriel Benitez KOs Charles Ontiveros. We knew that. Split decision, Nina Nunes and Cynthia Calvillo. We thought Calvillo was going to win that one. I missed that fight too.
And Cynthia and Nina Nunes, I thought she pretty clearly won, and then she retired after.
Mm-hmm. She wants to have more kids. Good for her.
Oh, is that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wants to have more babies.
Amanda's not carrying the kids, right?
Yeah, it was Nina that. Yeah. That's cool. Martin Boudet. This was a lot closer fight than we anticipated.
Yeah.
Split decision. And Angela Hill comes through and gets a big win against Lupi Godinez.
By decision. Got that one wrong.
Now we're going to have to, that means we're going to have to see her again.
She's 14-12, just setting the world on fire.
Setting the world on fire. Gerald Mersart, you called it. You said there's some value there, and there was value.
Tons of value. Submission.
Choked him out.
Merchant. Guillotine choke.
Another one
Is he the second best submission artist ever at middleweight behind Damian Maia?
Dude, he's pretty slick. He's pretty freaking slick, man.
Other than Damian Maia, who can you say is better than him?
Dude, look at his wins. Choke, 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 choke.
He gonna catch your neck.
Choke. Dude, every fight he wins, choke. A body kick. Armbar. Choke. Kimura. Choke. Crazy. He's just snatching necks.
5 seconds.
Yeah, that was a letdown. How about our zombie girl just bringing it to Lipsky?
Scary.
She had nothing. Scary.
Dude,
she might be coming into her own right now. Zombie girl. She's looked pretty good the last 2 fights.
Scary.
Pretty good the last 2 fights.
Yeah, she's not trying to rip somebody's eyeballs out and just fighting. She's pretty good.
Mirzakhanov gets the ground and pound win in the 3rd round against Devin Clark.
Don't pick against undefeated Russians.
Oh, you know what? Blake sent me a text. He said there's something we need to add to this. Let me tell you what it is. Blake says he has a new rule for picking fights. It works 99% of the time. If the fighters they are promoting has a highlight from pre-Reebok Bud Light deal, they will automatically lose. That's a pretty good stat. That's pretty good.
Wait, what?
So if they're promoting a fighter and he has highlights pre-Reebok and Bud Light deal, they automatically lose. So basically the older fighters.
Oh, so if they've been in too long and they're
yeah, pre-Reebok.
So if they have Reebok or Venom, then they're good.
They're good. Yeah, they're good.
All right.
Interesting little stat there by our boy Blake Arulian, who will be at UFC press. He got the press passes. I'm jealous. I'm a little jealous. Not gonna lie. I need to go back and rewatch this fight against the 2 girls. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce their name.
It was awesome.
But I heard it was great.
No, it was a banger. It was awesome. They were great. They totally delivered.
And didn't Dana go out and talk to the girl, the 20-year-old girl after?
Yeah.
Kind of give her props after?
Yeah.
Dude, and then another fight that was a banger. Your boy Nate Landwehr and David Onami.
Don't ever say my boy. He's still when he starts doing his taunting stuff too, my dad immediately goes, I can see why you don't like him. He's just annoying.
Onami gassed himself out. He gassed himself out in that first round.
But he tried. He tried.
He did try.
Fatigue's a beast, but he tried, and I think he hurt Landwehr a few times.
Oh, he hurt him. Especially in the first round. Yeah, he does, Mike. He loves him. He loves him.
He loved me. Mike, we're gonna fight next. How about that?
And then main event, man. We were both on Cheeto Vera. Does Cruz need to hang him up?
Well, now the question is, what are you fighting for?
Yeah, what is he fighting for at this
point? What are you fighting for? Because you're not a championship fighter anymore, probably, Dom.
Father Time has caught up with him.
Yeah.
And the sport has evolved. You know, when he first came in, he was a killer. Look, he's great.
Let's not get it twisted. He was up 2-1 going into that 4th round. And the round he lost, it's not like he lost bad. I saw some people thought he was up 3-0. He wasn't, but and then I saw somebody else say, I hate it when they say he was winning till he wasn't. Well, that tells the story. He was, but that's how quick the sport can turn, and it's okay.
I thought it was more of a. I mean, don't get me wrong. I felt Cruz was winning.
But the momentum was definitely shifting to Cheeto.
It felt like Cheeto was just playing the game. I think he was working on that timing, and
that's a tricky game to play with Cruz, because you get outpointed a lot. Here, ready for a stat?
Yeah.
Cruz in his first 23 fights never got dropped. He's been dropped 7 times in his last 5 fights.
Ooh. How about did you see Eric Nixick's tweet about how he keeps dipping his head?
A minute and a half before it happened.
Just right after. crazy watching the replay of him doing that. Every time he threw that, he was dipping. It didn't even look like it connected. The kick didn't even look, until you watch it in slow motion and seen his nose shatter.
Yeah.
It didn't even look like it was like.
What did you think about Cheeto after saying that his style was low level? I felt like that was kind of a cheap shot.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe not cheap shot's not the right word. I just don't think that that's really fair to say.
But he circled back after and did say, "Hey, look, he's one of the greats. I just felt like I could be." I mean, he kind of like he said it, but then he circled back around and was kind of giving him his props. Yeah,
I'm just saying, Cheeto is now one of 4 people to beat him, and the other 3 were in title fights. A guy doesn't have as much success and beat the type of people that he does for as long as he has, being quote unquote low level.
Definitely not low level.
And I saw somebody else say, and I'll tell you who after, because I just think it was so ignorant and stupid. A local fighter that hasn't accomplished really anything should be. But they said, yeah, I've been saying this for a long time. Dominic Cruz's style is low level. No, it's not. And to say that, I think is stupid. I think Cheeto, being the competitor, was like, I can beat that guy. Like my style, I can beat that guy. That's one thing. But to say it's low level, I think that's a very poor choice of words.
Yeah.
In my book, he's still the greatest bantamweight of all time.
The sport's evolving.
Being very low level.
Fighters are evolving. People figure there's enough tape out there on Dom. They got that his little hoppity hop.
He sells it.
Yeah.
He sells it on Facebook. I took the introduction course, like the free course, the free one. I took the free course on it about his footwork, and then you could buy the rest of the series to teach his footwork. And I took it and I played with it at the gym for like a month.
Yeah.
Like once you share your kind of it's a pattern. What he does is a pattern, and nobody can figure it out forever until Cody Garbrandt did.
Yep. You notice he would make a couple of bouncy steps and he'd take a deep breath and then he'd go again. He
always did that.
Yeah, but he just seemed a little.
He's old.
Yeah, he just was a little more.
That's a hard style to do in your old age.
Predictable, maybe that's the word for it. A little more predictable now.
I don't think it's predictable. I think it's, like you said, we've seen enough. He's literally put it out there for, I can't remember, a couple payments of $49.99 or whatever, and you can learn his patterns and stuff like that. Because before he was quick, right? So he was so quick that he could move in and out and touch you and blitz you and then out, and then he's always doing this stuff. And even if you know what he's doing, you're so uncomfortable and not used to seeing it because nobody can replicate it, that seeing it live and fast for the first time, you in 5 rounds isn't enough to get your timing down on it. But if you start slowing down just a little bit, and that's where Cody caught him, because Cody's hands still they're so fast that he caught him, right? And he sat him down a few times. And then Cheeto did a very good job of like not chasing him around and exuding energy, trying to catch up to him. He waited until he had him in a corner, knew he did something, and then leaned off of it. And he didn't have anywhere to back up to. He did it on the cage. Like, that's why I say I think Cheeto played a dangerous game, because what if Dom never puts himself in that situation? But at the same time, Cheeto, I think, kept Dom's back on the cage more and more as the fight grew.
You think Cheeto paid the $49.99?
3 payments of $49.99.
3 payment.
Possible.
So what's next for Cheeto? Do you give him Sanhagen next? I don't think he fights for a title next, because you got Aldo and Merab fighting this weekend. The winner of that, I would think, gets a title shot.
I don't know. Aljamain said that was a number 1 contender fight, and then the Merab Aldo fight was a number 1 contender fight, and whoever won their fights more impressively would be number 1 contenders. Now, with that being said, I do not see Cheeto. I could see Cheeto maybe fighting the winner of Jan and Sugar Show.
I like that.
If Sean O'Malley beats Jan, I could see you doing a Cheeto versus O'Malley 2, run it back for a number one contender.
What if Marab beats Aldo? Marab and Sterling aren't going to fight, are they? They train together, don't they?
Marab said that he would drop down to
Uh,
125 before fighting Aljo for that.
ooh, that makes things interesting at 125.
Yeah.
Interesting. Who do you got this weekend? Oh, we can wait. We can wait till Thursday.
Yeah.
Gotta get some picks, dog. We got some picks to make. So Cheeto Sandhagen next, 4 versus 5.
Yeah.
Why
No,
not?
isn't Sandhagen fighting?
Who's Sandhagen fighting? He is fighting. Let's see.
I thought Sterling said he'd drop or move up. Sterling has talked about moving up to 145.
He's a pretty big 135er.
But
Yeah, he's fighting Song Yudong
yeah,
and
that's right.
Sandhagen.
But that gets really messy if he moves up and Volkanovski's trying to move up. Like, what are we doing here? You know?
Yep. Yeah.
Like what are we doing here if Aljo moves up and fights who? Yair for an interim title?
Maybe.
Does that do anything for you?
I don't know.
Aljo versus Yair? Josh Emmett gets left out, or does Aljo fight Josh Emmett for an interim? Like, it doesn't really do anything for me. There's enough bandwidths to keep him busy.
How about Aljo and Holloway?
I don't know.
You don't want to see it? You think Aljo beats him?
I think I could see him backpacking him for 5 rounds.
Dude, Aljo's pretty freaking good, man.
I know.
He's
That's
pretty good.
On the feet, I think Max puts it on him, but I think Aljo creates grappling exchanges and scrambles. And after what he did to Jan, I have a hard time. I have a hard time picking against him if he can fight somebody that he can create those grappling exchanges with. And
yeah.
Are we all just writing off TJ Dillashaw?
No, I think Aljo beats him. I don't want to write him off, but once again, we've talked about it. He's getting a little long in the tooth too. He's had a lot of layoffs. The sport's evolving.
I think
he's good
too.
I think Aljo beats him, but then
I think Dillashaw's also. You can make the claim that he's the second best bantamweight of all time.
So what if you give him what if Aldo wins and TJ wins? Do you do Aldo Dillashaw for the title?
No, it's Aljo and Aljo's still.
I'm just saying if Dillashaw wins the belt and Aldo beats Marab, then you got to do Aldo versus TJ, right?
Yes.
I like that fight because that's going to be a freaking 3-round war stand up.
Yes.
Some good fights coming up. Hey, when do tickets go on sale for September? August
29th.
29th. August 29th.
That Monday.
Blake asked us, do you think Henry comes into play? I don't think so. I don't think he's coming back.
Here's the thing. I don't think Henry moves the needle enough to demand that. People are like, well, Conor gets to.
Conor moves the needle.
Conor moves the needle. It's different. So Chael said something, I think we talked about it before, but the UFC was never about the 2 best fighters fighting.
Yeah.
It's a business first, and it's about what makes money first, and then if it's convenient, the 2 best fight, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's promoting 101. If you want pure the best, that's what the Olympics are for. Go get in an Olympic sport. MMA is not that. It's a business first for the promotions, right?
True.
We have a local fighter that had some pretty egregious demands or whatever. Talented fighter, very good. Don't think he's fighting anywhere anytime soon because business-wise, it doesn't make sense to give him what he wants.
Yeah.
It's a business first. It is a business first, and entertainment goes along hand in hand with that business above what's quote unquote fair.
Yeah.
If all things were fair, Tony Ferguson and Khabib would have fought way before Conor ever got a shot at 155.
It's true. Very true.
But Conor moved the needle more than both of those guys did. You know, if we're talking about fair, somebody like Corey Anderson probably would have got a shot at the 205 title in the UFC.
Yeah.
But he didn't move the needle. If it was
He's moved-
fair, Colby Covington would have gotten paid handsomely. But otherwise, they just said, you know, you're a top 5 welterweight in the world, but you're not fun. So we're probably not going to renew your contract, man. You can look elsewhere. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But he made himself a
It's all about
businessman.
the dollars.
So when you talk about Henry Cejudo entering the conversation, he's tried really hard to put on the cringe act, right? And
Yeah.
I think he does because, like, I'd watch. I don't like Henry Cejudo, but I'd watch, and that's what you want to be, right?
Yeah.
You want people to tune in to cheer for you, root against you. I don't care. Just tune in. The last thing you want to be is obsolete, where people go, "Oh, he's fighting. I'm not going to watch."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only thing you don't want to be.
Did you see John Jones's coach tweeting about how people are going to be surprised at how he looks at heavyweight?
No.
Yeah. He's like, he's going to turn some heads at heavyweight.
Okay, but is he going to fight like a killer again, or is he going to point fight again?
Aren't they targeting him and Stipe for the end of this year? November, December?
281. That's the rumor.
So many what ifs.
So everybody's
So
talking
many
about
what ifs.
So everybody's talking about, like, hold on real quick.
How old is John Jones? He's mid-30s now?
Yeah, he's got it.
He's 35. Just turned 35 last month. He's still got a couple good years. He hasn't taken a lot of damage outside the one fight with Gustafsson. He doesn't really take a lot of damage in his fights.
No, because he's been a point fighter for so long. The Thiago Santos fight, Thiago got him a few times.
Yeah, he did.
But you know what I mean? Man, it's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that Stipe is never the same after the way that Francis knocked him out, right? Like, we've seen that before. Somebody gets brutally knocked out, and then they come back, and we're just like, oh, they're fine, and they're never the same again, right?
What if Jones just goes in there and starts?
What if Jones goes in and murks him in the first round? And then it's like, oh, now Jones is the GOAT again, right? He's back. He's back. And here's what, if Jones can do this, he'll ascend to another level that we haven't seen before. If he has a revitalization and goes in and finishes Stipe, finishes Francis, finishes Gain, Cyril Gain, and and goes 3-0, 4-0, defending the heavyweight title, and looks spectacular doing it, and doesn't try and point fight him. Because that's the other thing. I don't think you can go out and just point fight as a heavyweight and beat a bunch of high-level guys.
I guess he does a lot of point. He's once that Gustafsson fight, but he was finishing people before that. Elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Vitor Belfort, Machado choke, Rampage choke, knees. Like, early John Jones was a freaking killer. He was finishing people.
He was a monster. He was the GOAT.
He was a monster.
He was the GOAT.
Man.
I mean, people talk about Khabib. Why didn't Khabib look at the GOAT? Because he had 3 title defenses and he looked spectacular. Go look what John Jones did for his, 9
people forget about
title
that.
Defenses?
People forget about that because of all the outside the cage antics.
Yeah.
But
in the cage, he's the best ever.
He's the best. You can't dispute that. You can't dispute it. For what he did,
his accomplishment, his resume is unmatched.
Well, we're gonna find out. Oh man, that's good. All right. Anything else? You want to touch on anything else? We good? All good in the hood?
So I do. I'm keep fixating on this.
Okay.
I saw somebody else talking about it earlier, and so I was just like thinking about it again. What if like? So I listened to somebody asked Jorge Masvidal what he thought about Nate Diaz and Chimaev,
Yeah.
and they gave him stylistically a terrible matchup. He said, but we learned something in the Gilbert Burns fight is Chimaev when he wastes a lot of energy doing dumb things, kind of
Yeah.
like he tried to put Burns away when Burns wasn't ready to put away, and he almost gassed himself out. If he does that against Nate Diaz, like how much did Chimaev learn from that fight? That's what we're gonna find out. Do you think Chimaev comes in and just knocks out Nate Diaz, just starches
No.
him?
No.
I don't either.
No.
Do you think he can submit Nate Diaz in the early rounds?
I don't think so. He'd have to
Okay,
hurt him pretty bad. He'd have to hurt him pretty bad.
So now it comes like his okay. So his best chance is probably a doctor stoppage. But dude, if it gets to rounds 4 and 5, like Nate's a live dog. If you're Chimaev, is there an urgency to try and get him out in the first 2-3 rounds?
I think he wants. I mean, hopefully it's not in his head.
We haven't seen Chimaev go 5 rounds. And it's one thing to be a monster and always be training and doing this and that, but the adrenaline and the exertion the output you put to finishing somebody, and if they won't go away.
But yeah, but how does Diaz beat him though? Even if it gets to those later rounds, how's Diaz going to beat him?
Choke him out, guillotine, rear naked choke. If Chimaev gets tired,
you think he'll break? You think he'll fold?
He almost did against Gilbert.
He stayed in that fight, man. That was impressive what he did with Gilbert.
Oh, sure, but I'm saying is it was 3 rounds. I think we all would agree if that fight goes 5 rounds, I think Gilbert Burns gets his hand raised by the end of it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It wasn't, right? There's a lot of what ifs, and you have to give Chimaev credit where I'm just saying, I don't think it's as much of a foregone conclusion as everybody's talking about. I am talked into that Chimaev could absolutely come out and just starch him, but I'm just saying, like, I keep circling back to this, and I may look stupid, but I'm like, if it gets drug into the 4th or 5th round and Chimaev's throwing the kitchen sink at him and can't get him out of there, that's a lot. I mean, that's where some inexperience comes in. He's never been in a 5-round fight. He's never been the main event on a UFC card like that.
Diaz could just be like, hey, just pay me. I'm going to start taking a beating. And maybe he gives up a submission and just walks out and says, pay me. I don't see him doing that, but I don't know, dude. I'm trying to think of ways. I understand what you're saying. I do.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that Nate beats him or that I pick Nate to beat him or I think he's going to win. I'm just saying, I think people are talking, oh, this is too much. Chimaev smashes him and it's over. I'm like, I'm not convinced that happens. I'm just not. And then if it gets into 4th or 5th round, dude, we saw Leon Edwards is one of the best in the world. And watch him fight the pound for pound best that, you know, he obviously believes he can go in there and win. And I think if Usman isn't on his A game, that is absolutely a fight that Leon Edwards can win.
Yeah.
If Usman isn't on his A game.
It's interesting.
Nate rocked the crap out of Leon Edwards in the 5th round. And almost, if Nate Diaz wasn't just Nate Diaz and he was any other fighter and didn't wobble him and have to stand and point and laugh at him and would have jumped on him.
Yeah, he might have finished him. Yeah.
I don't know.
It makes it interesting. It's definitely interesting.
It's not as crazy as I thought when they originally announced it.
Yeah, I agree.
Now
that it's all settling in. Yeah, I had that little time to think about it. I get it.
I think, I don't know. And and here's the other thing, and I had somebody pointed out, Ammon Bennett, me and him were talking about it this morning. If Nate Diaz loses a decision, but Hamzat can't put him away, and Nate just fights to the end, like Mike says, and he can't put him away and stuff, his momentum going into a Jake Paul boxing match or whatever is going to be ginormous.
Oh, yeah.
UFC's biggest, baddest monster couldn't even finish me.
Yeah, that's true too. He could set himself up for a pretty big damn payday.
The only way his stock gets hurt, right, is if he gets slept or something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It could happen. We've just never seen it.
Oh, it's so interesting. So interesting. Anyways, we'll see you guys on Thursday for our breakdown of UFC 278 Salt Lake City. I'm so stoked. I need to try to get off. I need a good excuse to get off work early to go to weigh-ins. See if we can pull it off. We'll see you guys on Thursday. We out.